Be careful who you communicate with. People tend to imitate habits. Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving deep into a topic that affects each and every one of us, whether we realize it or not. The people we communicate with daily can have a profound impact on us. Their habits, attitudes, and behaviors can slowly seep into our own lives. This is why we need to be very careful about who we let into our inner circle and whose habits we allow ourselves to absorb. Today we'll explore how this happens, why it matters, and how to protect ourselves from negative influences, all while embracing the positive ones. Let's start by understanding how habits form. According to psychology, habits are patterns of behavior that develop through repetition and reinforcement. Every time we repeat an action or thought, we strengthen the neural pathways in our brain that make it easier to repeat that behavior. What's fascinating is that this process isn't limited to our own actions. It also applies to what we observe in others. Our brains are wired to imitate. There's a famous phenomenon in neuroscience known as mirror neurons. These are the neurons that fire not only when we perform an action, but also when we watch someone else do it. This explains why we tend to pick up habits, both good and bad, from the people we interact with. We subconsciously mimic their body language, speech patterns, and even their mindset. This is why the saying, "you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with," is so powerful. If you're surrounded by people who are always negative, complaining, or unmotivated, there's a good chance that those habits will start to rub off on you. On the flip side, if you're in the company of driven, optimistic, and goal-oriented individuals, you'll likely start mirroring those positive traits. Now, let's talk about the power of your environment. Just as habits shape your actions, your social environment shapes your habits. When we look at our closest relationships, friends, family, colleagues, we often don't realize how much they contribute to the way we think, act, and live. But every conversation, every interaction influences the mental and emotional environment we exist in. Psychologists have a term for this called social conformity. It's human nature to want to fit in, to belong to the group. In fact, we often adopt the habits of those around us just to maintain harmony in our social circles, even if those habits don't align with. So, ask yourself, who are you regularly communicating with? What kind of environment are you creating for yourself? Because your environment either lifts you up or pulls you down, and a large part of your environment is made up of the people you surround yourself with. Their habits will eventually become your habits. We've talked about how habits form and how our environment influences us, but let's go deeper into the dangers of negative habits. These are the habits that don't serve you, and often they're the ones we pick up the quickest. For example, think about procrastination. You might have a friend who constantly puts things off, and before you know it, you're doing the same. Negative habits aren't just limited to procrastination. Consider gossip, negativity, or a lack of ambition. When you consistently engage with people who complain about life or blame others for their problems, it becomes easy to adopt that victim mentality. You may find yourself complaining more, even if it's about things that don't bother you much. The key is to recognize these patterns early. Sometimes it's not obvious. You may think, "Oh, I'm just having fun with my friends." But slowly these behaviors become ingrained in your everyday life. The negativity, the self-doubt, the laziness, they start to define you, and the worst part is, it becomes a cycle. Your negative habits can also start influencing others around you. Now that we've discussed the negative side of habit formation, let's turn the conversation toward the positive. Just as we can absorb negative habits from others, we can also absorb positive ones. The key is to consciously choose your circle of influence. Take a moment and think about the people you communicate with regularly. Are they lifting you up or bringing you down? Do they have habits you aspire to adopt, or do their habits feel draining? If you're surrounded by people who are hard-working, driven, and compassionate, those habits will start to seep into your life too. It's all about surrounding yourself with the right energy. To foster positive habits, one strategy is to actively seek out role models. People you admire for their discipline, their mindset, or their success. Whether it's a mentor, a friend, or even someone you follow online, spend more time with them, communicate with them, and let their positive energy influence you. Remember, it's not just about avoiding negative influences, but about intentionally seeking out positive ones. Just as easily as we can be dragged down, we can also be lifted up. You have the power to choose who you spend your time with and who you communicate with. And in turn, you have the power to shape your own habits and the life you want. So how can we be more intentional about who we communicate with? First, audit your current relationships. Who are the people you spend the most time with? What are their habits? Are they aligned with your goals and the person you want to become? If not, it might be time to distance yourself or set boundaries. Second, focus on quality over quantity. It's not about having a large social circle, but a meaningful one. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, challenge you, and make you better. You want to walk away from interactions feeling energized, not drained. There is a quote that says, "Be careful who you communicate with. People tend to imitate habits." The quote emphasizes the idea that we are influenced by the people we interact with regularly, highlighting the importance of choosing our social circles wisely. It suggests that we may unconsciously adopt the habits, attitudes, or behaviors of those we frequently communicate with. While the exact source is unknown, the sentiment aligns with similar ideas expressed by motivational speakers, self-help authors, and psychologists about the impact of social influence on personal development. Be careful who you communicate with. People tend to imitate habits. This quote is often misattributed to various authors or public figures, but its true origin is uncertain. It's not definitively associated with any specific person. The quote emphasizes the idea that we are influenced by the people we interact with regularly, highlighting the importance of choosing our social circles wisely. It suggests that we may unconsciously adopt the habits, attitudes, or behaviors of those we frequently communicate with. While the exact source is unknown, the sentiment aligns with similar ideas expressed by motivational speakers, self-help authors, and psychologists about the impact of social influence on personal development. If you're interested in exploring this concept further, I'd be happy to discuss related ideas or provide information on scientifically studied phenomena like social contagion or peer influence. Be careful who you communicate with. People tend to imitate habits. Discuss related ideas or provide information on scientifically studied phenomena like social contagion or peer influence. Certainly, I'd be happy to discuss related ideas and provide information on scientifically studied phenomena related to this quote. The concept that people tend to imitate the habits of those they communicate with is deeply rooted in social psychology and has been the subject of extensive research. 1. Social learning theory. Albert Bandura's social learning theory proposes that people learn by observing and imitating others. This theory suggests that we acquire new behaviors through direct experience or by observing others, a process called observational learning or modeling. 2. Social contagion. Social contagion refers to the spread of behaviors, attitudes, or emotions from person to person within a group. This phenomenon has been observed in various contexts. A. Emotional contagion. Studies have shown that emotions can be contagious. For example, research by Elaine Hatfield and colleagues demonstrates people tend to mimic and synchronize their expressions, vocalizations, and postures with those around them, leading to emotional convergence. B. Behavioral contagion. Behaviors can also spread through social networks. A well-known study by Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler found that obesity can spread through social ties, suggesting that weight gain in one person can influence weight gain in their friends and family. 3. Peer influence. Peer influence is particularly strong in adolescence, but continues to play a role throughout adulthood. It can affect various aspects of behavior. A. Risk-taking. A study by Margot Gardner and Lawrence Steinberg found that adolescents and young adults are more likely to take risks when in the presence of peers. B. Academic performance. Research has shown that students' academic achievement can be influenced by their peer groups, both positively and negatively. 4. The chameleon effect. Psychologists Tanya Chartrand and John Bargh described the chameleon effect, where people unconsciously mimic the postures, mannerisms, and facial expressions of their interaction partners. This mimicry tends to increase liking and rapport between individuals. 5. Social proof. Robert Cialdini's principle of social proof suggests that people look to others to determine appropriate behavior, especially in ambiguous situations. This can lead to the adoption of behaviors or attitudes simply because others are exhibiting them. 6. The Framingham Heart Study. This long-term study not only provided valuable information about cardiovascular health, but also revealed interesting patterns of social influence. Researchers found that smoking cessation, happiness, and even loneliness appeared to spread through social networks. 7. Digital influence. With the rise of social media, the concept of social influence has taken on new dimensions. Studies have shown that online interactions can influence various behaviors, from consumer choices to political opinions. 8. Cultural transmission. On a broader scale, the transmission of cultural practices and norms from one generation to the next is a form of social learning that shapes societies over time. These scientific findings underscore the importance of being mindful about our social environment. They suggest that the people we surround ourselves with can have a significant impact on our behaviors, attitudes, and even our health outcomes. However, it's important to note that while social influence is powerful, it's not deterministic. Individual factors, personal choice, and critical thinking still play crucial roles in shaping behavior. Being aware of these influences can help individuals make more conscious choices about their social interactions and the habits they adopt. This is an interesting and complex scenario to consider. Let's explore how social influence might play out between two friends with differing characters, and why someone with good character might potentially adopt behaviors from a friend with bad character. First, it's important to note that good and bad character are subjective and often culturally defined concepts. For this discussion, let's assume good character involves prosocial behaviors, ethical decision-making, and self-discipline, while bad character involves antisocial behaviors, unethical choices, and poor self-control. Why might the friend with good character adopt behaviors from the one with bad character? 1. Novelty and excitement. Behaviors associated with bad character might seem exciting or novel, especially if the good friend has led a sheltered life. 2. Peer pressure. The desire to fit in or be accepted can be strong even in adults. 3. Misperception of norms. If the bad behaviors are presented as normal or common, the good friend might adjust their behavior to match perceived norms. 4. Gradual desensitization. Repeated exposure to bad behaviors can normalize them over time. 5. Rationalization. The good friend might justify adopting certain behaviors by focusing on positive traits of the bad friend. 6. Emotional contagion. Negative emotions or attitudes might transfer between friends, influencing behavior. 7. Situational factors. Certain environments or contexts might make bad behaviors seem more acceptable or necessary. Is bad character the default in human behavior? This is a complex philosophical and scientific question without a clear consensus. However, most evidence suggests that bad character is not the default. 1. Evolutionary perspective. Humans evolved as social creatures. Cooperation and prosocial behaviors were crucial for survival, suggesting good character traits have deep roots. 2. Developmental psychology. Children show early signs of empathy, fairness, and helping behaviors, indicating a natural inclination towards good character. 3. Neurobiological evidence. The human brain is wired for empathy and cooperation. Mirror neurons, for instance, help us understand and share others' emotions. 4. Cultural universals. While specific norms vary, All cultures have systems of morality and value pro-social behaviors. 5. Majority behavior. Most people, most of the time, behave in ways that could be considered good character. However, several factors can promote bad behaviors. 1. Self-interest. Sometimes unethical behavior offers short-term personal benefits. 2. Cognitive biases. We often fail to fully consider the consequences of our actions or the perspectives of others. 3. Environmental influences. Adverse circumstances, lack of resources, or exposure to violence can promote antisocial behaviors. 4. Group dynamics. People may behave worse in groups due to diffusion of responsibility or conformity pressures. 5. Mental health issues. Conditions like antisocial personality disorder can predispose individuals to bad behaviors. In the context of two friends, it's worth noting that influence can go both ways. While there's a risk of the good friend adopting negative behaviors, there's also potential for positive influence. The good friend might help the other develop more positive traits over time. Ultimately, character is shaped by a complex interplay of genetic predispositions, personal experiences, social influences, and individual choices. While social influence is powerful, it doesn't negate personal responsibility or the capacity for conscious decision-making. To maintain good character in the face of negative influences, strategies like self-awareness, critical thinking, setting clear boundaries, and seeking diverse social connections can be helpful. It's also important to remember that fleeting behaviors don't define character. It's the consistent patterns of thought and action over time that shape who we are. If you want to surround yourself with disciplined, motivated individuals, be disciplined and motivated yourself. Like attracts like, and when you embody the habits you want to see, you naturally attract those types of people into your life. So in closing, be mindful of who you communicate with. Remember, habits are contagious, and the people you surround yourself with have the power to shape your life. Choose wisely. Surround yourself with people who reflect the habits and values you aspire to, and watch how your life begins to transform. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay conscious, stay positive, and be careful who you communicate with.